Now for this first little exercise, you're going to need to navigate to where you extracted those textbook files to. So mine are under Documents and CIT 195. And I renamed the textbook folder because I didn't like the name. And so I'm going to open it. And I'm going to open up chapter 3. And the first one that we are going to work on is daily rate. So we're going to open that up. And then to get into Visual Studio and open our project intact, we have to open up the solution file. And hopefully you guys are able to see your extensions on your file names. So the extension is the ending that comes after the period. In Windows 11, if you can't see that, if you go to View and Show, you can put a little check next to file name extensions. In other versions of Windows, it should be in a View ribbon. So you should have a View ribbon, and there should be a little check box that lets you turn on your file extensions. If that is something that you guys cannot find, if you pop into my live stream office hours, or if you're in the live stream class, I certainly can help you find how to turn that on. But I'm going to go ahead and double click on the solution file because that is going to launch Visual Studio, and it's going to open up my project. And then to see the code, I actually have to double click on my C# file, which is program.cs. And so for this first one, we are going to be adding some code to a run method. And right now, there's not a whole lot to this. Basically, it'll start executing at the main method. And the only thing it says here is to call a run method. So right now, the run method has nothing in it. So we're going to be basically entering 3 statements that are telling it to call 4 different methods, and we're going to have to create those methods. So when we put the method names in, it is going to flag them as errors because they don't exist yet. So read double is our first one. And it's flagging that. And now we've got our second one, which is going to be read int. That's our second method. Oops. That's not very helpful. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Let me try clicking away. Sometimes the code helper is not helpful. All right. And then we've got write fee, which is yet another method that we have to create, and calculate fee, another method. All right, so now it's got number of days. So if I press enter, I should be able to get that. And let me see, those are correct. So I can press the semicolon. I'm just quick looking to make sure I didn't do typos because I have been known to do a typo or two. All right, but that looks okay. And you'll notice that we do have the little red squiggles underneath the 4 methods that we have not created yet. So the purpose of this is for you guys to see how to generate kind of the stub of a method, kind of, the basics of a method without having to type it. So we'll start with read double. So we're going to right click on that, and then we're going to go to quick actions and refactorings. And then we're going to click on generate method read double. And it went ahead and generated the method for us. And most of it is correct, except for we're not going to have this not implemented exception message in there. So we're going to change that. And we're going to actually write in 3 different lines of code. So we'll write out the, and then we have string line equals console dot read line. And I love it when it figures out what I want to do, because then I just have to press tab and I don't have to type. And the rest of this is right. All right, so what is this doing? Well, first of all, you'll notice that the red squiggle is gone because now we've created our method. And we're passing the method enter your daily rate. So it's coming down here to our method. And that string, enter your daily rate, is now stored in a variable called v. So we have console.write v, which means it's going to display enter your daily rate. Then they're going to type something in, and we're reading that in, and we're storing it in a variable called line. And by default, read line does read in strings. Okay, so we're storing it as a string. And then you can see that we are converting it into a number, into a double number, when we return it to the line it was called from. Okay, and we're converting it into double because that is how we are storing it up here. So now we're going to do something very similar for read int. So we're going to right click on that, quick actions and refactorings. Yep, and we want to generate that. And so here it is. Now, it just so happens that this is going to be almost identical to read double. So I am going to copy those 3 lines that are in read double and paste it over this throw exception line that we don't want. And the only difference between read double and read int is that this one is returning int.parse. Okay, because it's being called from here. Okay, so it's passing this phrase. Okay, so that's coming in as v, and we're displaying the phrase here. We're reading whatever they've typed and storing it here, and then we're returning it to the place it was called from and converting it to an integer so that we can store it as a number, as a whole number. Okay, now we're going to do calculate fee, kind of the same way, right click, actions and refactorings, and we want to generate the method for calculate fee. And calculate fee, I believe, is a little bit different. Now for this one, what we want it to do is simply return the daily rate times the number of days. Daily rate times number of days, just like that, okay? Now, because this is such a simple, basically a one-line method, we can actually do a little bit of a shortcut on this. And this is something that we did not cover last semester, but it is kind of important. And it basically uses an expression in place of the method. So we actually, in a lot of languages, it's called a lambda expression or a lambda method. So we keep the first line of the method the same. So, oops, the return data type on this was not correct either. It's not returning an object. It's returning double. Okay. So we fixed that, and then we're going to keep the rest of this the same. Okay, and then instead of the curly braces and the return statement, we're going to have the lambda character, and then we're simply going to have our return statement follow. And actually, we don't even need return. We just need what we want returned. And then we delete the rest. Okay, so this little simplified version using our lambda expression does the exact same thing as the other version that we had with the curly braces. Okay, and this little shortened version is something that you will see a lot when we get into more ASP.NET Core and those types of projects. Okay, because it is shorter. It's basically one line instead of four. So just to give you a little more practice, for the last one that we do, we're also going to use this little lambda expression. So we're going to do write fee. We'll go ahead and generate that one. Okay, and you'll notice the return data type is void. And that is because it's just simply going to write out the v value. So we're going to put in our little lambda here. And it's console.writeLine. I'm going to do the string interpolation. And it's the consultant's fee is. We want to print out V, but we want to do basically 10% more. So it's going to be V times 1.1. And you can put spaces in there for readability, but it's not really required. Okay, and then we'll put our double quotes in and finish it off with a semicolon. And we can get rid of these other lines. Okay, so you can see how that does kind of quicken up writing methods. Okay, and so especially if you just have a one-liner, this is a little better way of doing it. Now, at this point, we are ready to see if this works. Always a good idea to run a build because that basically compiles it. And what you want to see is that it succeeded. Anytime you download code from whether it's GitHub or anywhere else, always run a build because quite often, especially if the program is completed, you are pulling in namespaces that have values associated with them, and you need to run a build to get everything pulled in. Okay, so always run a build. It's my helpful hint of the day. Now, what if it doesn't say succeeded? Well, that usually means that there's a typo somewhere, or you got a syntax error. So maybe I forgot a semicolon. Okay, well, it's going to flag it with red. But if I did not see that, okay, I'm tired, having a long day, run my build, and you can see I've got an error. So if I double click here, it actually takes me to the exact spot where the error is. So I can fix it. And then poof, the error goes away. So I can run my build. And it worked. So now I'm going to go ahead and run the code. And my daily rate. And my daily rate, let's say 150, number of days, 20. There we go. Okay, so you can run it a couple different times. To me, it's always a good idea if you run it with values that, you can do the math in your head. So, if your daily rate was 100 and you work 10 days, that's pretty easy to figure out. Remember that we were doing 10% more. So 1100 is correct. Okay, and then we'll save our changes.